I will be introducing our moderator for today, which is Tessa White. Tessa White is a very impressive woman and very involved with the business school, so we're lucky to have her here today. She is a human resources executive with over 20 years of experience in a variety of technology and healthcare analytics companies. She held the position of Human Capital Vice President for Ingenix Division of United Health Group, and most recently as Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Health Equity. She has a passion for talent management and scaling businesses for next generation growth. She was the president of the local Society for Human Resources chapter and has served as HR advisor on numerous boards and worked in many companies and partnered with venture capital firms to prepare for fast growth or liquidity events. Tessa isn't just all about business. On the weekend, you can find her fly fishing and on the quest for the biggest trout in the river. We're so lucky to have Vivint Solar with us today, so let's give a warm Huntsman welcome to Tessa and Vivint Solar.
Hi everyone, we meet again. It's so great to be back here again. I feel like this is my second home lately. I love being affiliated with students, and I love the vibrancy I feel from you when I come. So I want to introduce you to two of our panelists today. I have Ty Williams and Taylor Turnbull here. They are some of our executives at Vivint Solar. They lead our sales team and production on the West Coast. And there's a reason that I picked them to come. The whole topic of today is lessons from the C-suite and how to accelerate career growth. And as you can see, they're fairly young, at least relative to me. And they are people who have figured out how to accelerate their career growth. And I thought that they would have wonderful lessons to teach you. As well, you know, we're running this entrepreneurial competition. And Taylor won the entrepreneurial competition at BYU back when he was in school. We think it's a great match, the kind of students that you are with the opportunities that we have here. So, Taylor and Ty, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We are going to fill it out with the other two. We've got our head of our Chief Revenue Officer and our Chief Sales Officer, who somehow missed the exit and are just a little bit behind. So they're going to just come in about 10-15 minutes, and they'll fill in right here, and we'll continue with the panel. And again, you're going to notice they're very young too. They figured something out. They've been really successful at a very young age. All right, are you guys ready for this? Here's the rules of the road. I'm going to ask you questions, and you can go first, you can go second, and if you don't have anything really relevant to say, or one of you already has said it all, you don't have to answer the question. So
We'll just trip over each other if that's okay. That's what we usually do.
just talk over it. Okay. All right. Let me start with this question. What were your original plans for yourself after you graduated? And is where you ended up at Vivint Solar, was that a deliberate decision or was it a happy accident?
Yeah, so I'll go first on this one. So I think I gotta hold this thing pretty close to my face here. Yeah, so I went to BYU and enrolled in the neuroscience program. It was kind of a new program at the time, and I planned to go to medical school. So that was always kind of my path. And I mean, you guys know probably I changed my major 3 or 4 times and settled on neuroscience finally. And it was always something that I felt like I needed to go in that direction because of advice I'd been given from a few different people. And so everything that I did, studying for the MCAT, all that type of stuff, everything kind of led me to that point. But I also had this entrepreneurial bug. My dad was an entrepreneur. He had always, he'd started several companies. He took one public. He reached a state of financial independence in his early 40s. And so I always, I was always kind of drawn to that path a little bit as well. So recently, home for my mission, I served the mission for the LDS Church in West Africa, in Ghana. And my mission president was Bob Gay. So he was one of the founders of Bain Capital with Mitt Romney, and worth a few $1 billion. And so in the world of finance, he's one of the names that everybody knows. And when Mitt left to run the Olympics, he took over and was the managing director of Bain until he was called to be mission president in Ghana. And so I felt like Paul and I, so Paul will be here in a minute, you guys will meet him, but he's our chief revenue officer. He and I were missionaries together in Ghana, and so when we got home from our missions, we had nothing to do. We wanted to get married, start a family, do all that kind of stuff, go to school, so that was the path. And we needed something to make some money, to do that. So we started a company that did smart meter deployments for utility companies all over the country. It started just really small. We started with like Spanish Fort, then we did Mona City, and a few other smaller things, and then we ended up winning the Questar gas project. And so while I was going to school, we were also running this business as well on the side. So it was and I was studying neuroscience, but practicing business in real life, right? So kind of studying like organic chemistry, which is real life, but I've never used it since then, right? And I mean, I legitimately can't think of a time I've ever thought about chirality of molecules ever since I was, in my OChem class. But practicing business, and I guess I took a minor in business, took a few business classes, but really learned everything I know from actually putting it into practice. And so yeah, I mean, I was planning to go to med school, take that path. But we ended up winning the Entrepreneur of the Year competition, having a private equity firm, Peak Capital, which at the time only did commercial real estate. You guys may have heard of them. Now they do a lot of venture investment. We were the first business venture that they invested in, and we ended up selling that business to Vivint at the end of 2010. So that put me on the career path that I'm on now. But at the time I was planning, I thought by now I'd be in my third year of residency or something like that, right? Because it takes like 25 years to graduate from medical school, so I'm glad I'm not there.
Hey, Taylor went first and talked about neuroscience, so I thought I could go first because you have this really impressive story. I studied marketing and advertising at BYU, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. Like, I was at school kind of looking for something, and this program is awesome. We didn't have a sales program and stuff when I was going to school, or else hopefully I would have found it and ended up there, but that's really my niche. And so I was sitting at a family home evening group at BYU asking people what I should do for my major. And two of them said marketing and advertising, and I was like, that actually sounds really cool. And I got into marketing and advertising, and that's how I picked that and I loved it. Like, it was perfect for me, but yeah, I actually feel like my personal career, I'm kind of a product of marketing school and networking personally. So when I was going to school at BYU, I was in a Spanish class, and these two guys, which is funny, I just did this yesterday at UVU, I'm like just full circle, but these two guys came into my Spanish class and said, hey, you guys speak Spanish, we're selling pest control in Puerto Rico. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun, like I'll do that. And I went to some networking meeting that night, and I brought my entire apartment full of people with me. So it was me plus like 6 other guys, and we showed up to this meeting to learn about this opportunity. And there was pizza and foosball and ping pong, and we did a lot of that, and nobody talked to us about the job, and we left. And then later, I fell into a group of friends that happened to work for Vivint. And if you would have asked me at that time, what are you doing in the summer, I would have told you I'm going to sell pest control in Puerto Rico. I didn't have the guy's phone number or anything, but I was in. And then these guys were like, you should come do this, and introduced me to that whole world. That was 15 years ago. So my plan was, I was looking into 2 ad agencies. One was in New York, one was in LA. And I was going to go do that. And then my summer job just kept paying more and more money, and so I'm yet to go take a job at those ad agencies.
And the cool part is, so Ty and I, like Tessa said, we run the West Coast for Vivint Solar. We have 500 guys that work, just sales guys that work on the West Coast right now. And then operations teams as well. I don't know how many, there's 4,000 employees at Vivint Solar. There's probably 1,500 of those work in the West Coast. And so it's cool because Ty studied sales and marketing, and now he does, we're going to do a competition later. He designed this whole competition. He did everything on his actual computer. Did all the design work. He's done all the branding and everything on that coast. So we actually both get to put into practice a lot of things that we did learn. through school, but most of what we make our money from, we probably learned experientially through the associations that we made during this time of life to allow us to get to where we are now.
Thank you for the segue. That's perfect for where I want to go next. By the way, these guys are freaks of nature when it comes to how good they are at building up an area and building a sales team that's productive. They're extraordinarily good at what they do. And so you guys both talked about how you ended up doing something slightly different than what you thought your focus would be. And I think for me as well, I was surprised when I got out of college that what the textbooks taught versus what actually happens in business. So tell me a little bit about your impressions, as you can recall, about how the real world worked, and what were some of the adjustments you needed to make from college to real life career?
Personally, it couldn't be more different, textbook to reality for me. I think it was just the time that I was going through advertising school. So I graduated from BYU in 2006, and we were studying media buying from textbooks. So you had your TV schedules, and we had people from like Fox News come in and say, this is how you buy, and they had these like papers. This is 2006, and to me that doesn't feel like that long ago. Maybe it does to you, but
you're super old, dude.
Yeah, dude, I know. And I feel like when you get old, like you talk about being old to try to be younger, but anyways. And so where my curriculum in school had gotten to is I signed up for Facebook in my marketing class. You used to have a college email address to get Facebook. So it was like that new.
Yeah,
and
you really are old now.
Believe me, no. So we had gotten to the point in the curriculum in like my most senior classes where they said, and then there's digital marketing and there's social media, and we haven't really figured it out yet. And that's like where the curriculum started, and then they like sent us out into the real world. So what I've learned since, what school was for me is it taught me a couple of things. Number one, relationships. The people that you're meeting in this room are the people that you'll go on to do business with. That's been my experience. All of the people that I do business with now are people that I networked with mostly in school. That was probably the biggest thing for me. The second thing that school taught me to do is it taught me how to get work done when nobody cared, right? Like nobody cares if you you pay the tuition, right? So if you don't go to class, it's not like your teacher's going to call you and say, hey, I noticed you haven't been here for 3 days. Just want to see how you're doing and see if there's any way I can help. Right? There's hundreds of kids in the classes. And that's a lot how our jobs are. I mean, we do a job that, Chance and Paul, our bosses aren't even here because they can't follow GPS. I'm just kidding. Don't tell them I said that. But they've never once called and said, hey, can you give me an overview of your hours worked, or, let's review the productivity of your day yesterday. It's you have results and you have momentum and you have growth, or you don't. And that might sound cold, but the world doesn't prep you for that, right? And then you come into direct sales. Taylor and I are 100% commission. The Vivint Solar doesn't even pay for our cell phones. Everything that we are paid, we earn in commissions. And so for me, going to school and business classes and marketing classes that prepped me probably more than anything, because you'll work with people on projects and you'll go late into the night and you'll develop a really awesome product, and either it's great or it's not.
Yeah, I agree. And the way things change, you guys know this, but things change so fast. Like you write a textbook, and I remember it was like, hey, I couldn't get the used textbook because the used one from a year ago didn't contain more information that they found out like within the last year of the book being published, right? So my book from last year that I bought on Amazon is out of date. And I think it's probably just because they want to sell more textbooks, honestly. But it just changes so fast. And so Ty's right. I think what you guys are doing, we were talking to Sterling before, these competitions that you do each year, that this like hands-on stuff that you're doing, that's the way that you're really going to learn and apply real life things. And we tried to come up with a scenario we're going to go through later that will hopefully help you to see what we do on a day-to-day basis, and kind of you can do that and measure yourself on, hey, how good am I at this? How good am I at thinking on my feet, thinking what's important for the business? How do I manage interpersonal relationships? Those are the things that end up being extremely important that a textbook obviously can't teach you.
By raise of hands, how many of you are business majors? Okay. How many of you are graduating this year? And how many of you are looking for jobs? Just so I know how to. Okay. So most of you have found something.
We got one.
You got that guy.
Okay. All right. So.
Got a target on you now. No.
So as you, from an executive perspective, you know, these guys are going to be looking for jobs at some point, those who are graduating. Tell me, what advice would you give about selecting the right company and about how to present themselves to get the job?
For us and what we do, hey, here they are. All right. Dude, we used to put our flags outside while and we took, in fairness, we took a couple digs at you guys when you weren't here.
Yeah, we really did. Mostly about your hair, Paul.
That way, if you find out about it later, it's not going to be so bad.
So let me hold while you think on that question. This is Chance Allred. He's our Chief Sales Officer, and Paul Dickson, Chief Revenue Officer. And so, again, I picked them because, as you can see, they're pretty young to have achieved the level that they have already, and they're very, very capable people. So what the format is, guys, we'll get you caught up. I'm going to ask a question, and if you have something to say, great, and if you don't, you can pass. We're going to try and get through as many questions as we can. Most of these people are business students, and we're just trying to help them understand what lessons we learned from the C-suite. How do you fast-track a career? Okay? And the latest question, I'll let Ty answer.
Yeah,
what do you do when you graduate? How do you select a company, and how do you get in the door?
Perfect. So what I was about to say before you guys made that awesome entrance was, in our line of work, selection of the right company is everything. There are so many, and it's easy to hide how good your company is now just with good design and with website. You can look at a website and say, oh wow, this company looks really legit, and you can go to the actual business and there's two people there that are stressed out. I mean, it's really hard to tell. And so in our business, there's a lot of promises. There's a lot of come here, you'll earn better, come here, there's bigger opportunity. So a couple things that we do when we're talking to people coming into the business, they'll usually talk to us and they'll usually talk to a handful of other companies. We always say once you come talk to us about getting into solar, it activates a magnet. And literally everybody that's in the industry somehow just knows, and you get all these offers and all this new information. You have to be able to filter that information. And in our job, it's the difference between people that have the experience they want and people that end up just getting out of the industry. So a couple things that we tell people when we're talking to them is, number one, right company. You have to look, you know, the kind of the textbook, I guess, side of it you're asking is you have to look at the financial viability of the company. Can they actually deliver on the promises that they're giving you? We know a lot of people that are very talented salespeople, that are very talented sales leaders, and they'll come into a business that just cannot support them. So ask the really hard questions. I found the best way to do that, since I don't have a finance background, is I'll usually go to the people that worked there before and the best people that are there now. And I'll just ask them a whole bunch of questions. Again, that's most of what we do is networking and communication. The second thing is the product, right? You look at the white space, you look at what the market need for the product is. Is it the right product? And the third thing is timing. Is it the right product at the right time? If you were going to go, work for Verizon and work on, running landlines and stuff, probably the wrong product and the wrong time, right? But if you can look into what these companies are doing with automation, or you look at how they're doing information in the home and integration of lifestyle with these daily products, you're probably in the right place. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, I think so. You also should go to the business and look at the finance guys walking through the hall and see if they're like walking around all depressed, or if they're all stressed out, or if they're pretty high, if they're high-fiving and excited. I think something that Ty said is a big thing. Getting yourself into a growth industry is also huge, right? You want to make sure the industry that you're getting into is an industry that has some runway and not one with a lot of volatility.
Yeah, so what Taylor was saying about the finance team was kind of a joke, but actually it's spot on. When we started Vivint Solar, there were 3 of us who started Vivint Solar together, and I didn't know anything about solar, I didn't know anything about the industry, but I understood finance well enough to look at a business model and say, okay, does this business pencil or does it not pencil? Is it going to be an economically attractive business or is it not? And a lot of things have changed over the 7 years since we started Vivint Solar, but the reason I got into Vivint Solar was looking at the economics of a business. And so probably the most important thing I can say is whatever path you're going down in business, having a good foundation in finance is really important. Just being able to look at a P&L, a balance sheet, an income statement, understand how they work, and then look at models well enough to say, okay, any pro forma that anybody creates is going to look phenomenal. So being smart enough to understand, okay, how do I look through this? Where's the BS? How do I cut this down, chop it down to a base layer? Okay, this business is sweet, or this business actually doesn't work without some crazy assumptions happening, which I do or don't buy into. If you buy into them, go, and if you don't, definitely don't.
Yeah, the other thing I would say to that is I think, and we have, at Vivint Solar, we have a lot of people who can actually do that, but I would say couldn't run the company. And so you got to be I think you got to be able to have that wicked smarts, but you also got to be really good with people and good with understanding people, recruiting people, retaining people, relating to people, and then you also got to kind of see the big picture. A lot of times we have really, really smart people, but they just get focused a little too narrow, and they don't really see the business from a whole. And so I think, as you're thinking about your career, you got to be, if you're saying, hey, I want to move up all the way up, you got to be really smart with finance, you got to be really good with people, and then you also have to be, able to kind of see things from a lot of different angles as you're doing it. So I would say early in your career, learning to do that will really help you. And and learning to be good with people comes really naturally for, I think, a lot of people, and other people, they struggle with it their whole career. So I would say early on, you're in business school, you're graduating, you're going to come out of business school, I think, with a lot of the smarts that you need, but those are maybe some of the soft skills that we see as people come in that maybe got, overlooked. It's like how to win friends and influence people type stuff. Be a good place to start.
And I'm in HR, so I'm going to give you an HR answer. I'm just going to plug in something because I get.
We're in HR. You're coming into sales.
Coming into sales, no, that's right. We see so many resumes and so many people trying to get ahead. The biggest advice I have for you is whether you're interviewing and learning about a company and pitching yourself, or you're actually in the role, learn what problems need to be solved for the company and then try and solve them. It really doesn't matter what your role is. In companies, there are people who just complain and say, boy, this really stinks about the company. It's so stupid that we do this. And they shrug their shoulders and it's not in their job description to fix. And there are people who actually go, I'm going to try and solve that problem within my department. Problem solvers get elevated and get plugged into roles because they can solve problems. It's how I got my first promotion. I knew we needed to do affirmative action for the company. Didn't know a thing about it. Took it on, hated the project day and night. Thought it was the worst thing I'd ever done. But I finished it, and within 3 weeks, we were audited. Had no idea the audit was coming. We passed the audit, and what I got out of that wasn't about what I learned about affirmative action at all. What I got out of that was that I then became a go-to person to solve a problem. And so learn how to solve problems quickly and be the person that doesn't complain or whine, but actually digs in and tries to solve it. I think those are the people that I see getting promoted in companies.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing. I think a lot of times, how many of you guys have a job right now? Okay, how many of your jobs include emailing other people within your company? Okay, so you probably received an email before from somebody asking a question that wasn't necessarily your job to answer the question, and it's easy to just quickly reply that something like, it's not my job to answer this question, right? Rather than taking the time to be thoughtful in replying back and saying, hey, it may not be my job, but I'm going to take this opportunity to add some value in this interaction with people that I work with. When you do that, you may not see immediate benefit of doing that. Like, there may not be, hey, I got a raise because I responded to that email from someone in a different department. But people around you, as you're working, they look at you and they want to work with people who are, like Tessa said, problem solvers, who they know, hey, this person, I actually need to make a hire And I don't really care. It's like when we started the company, Paul had no idea how to raise money. Like he didn't know. There were 4 of us around a table like, hey, we need to raise money for this business because we're putting $30,000 on someone's roof and they're not paying us anything for it right now. So we got to raise a bunch of capital. Paul had never done that. How old were we? 25? 25 when we started this. So he went and raised $100 million from U.S. Bank, right? $100 million. How much did you end up raising? 1.3 billion? 1.2 billion? So this guy raised $1.2 billion, no finance degree, right? Didn't work for a consulting company, had no idea, but he was the type of person that could just get problems solved better than anyone else around. And when you're that person, and you can consistently get something done that other people can't, you are going to be promoted because everyone wants that person around. You're extremely valuable when you can be an athlete in an organization.
So on that note, if you had to pick just one thing that has helped you the most accelerate your career, just one principle or one thing, what would that be?
Yeah. I'm ready for the question. I actually read a study recently on this, and I would say it's EQ. I'd say it's your ability to, there's IQ and there's EQ, your emotional quotient, your ability to read people and read a situation. And the study that I'm referring to is they took a scan of income that people earn, and they took all sorts of different professions, from accounting to sales, and they looked at what the main difference maker of higher earners was, and they found that it was EQ in every situation, in every single job. Whether you're a computer programmer or somebody that's in HR that has to solve these really dynamic problems all the time, being able to relate to people, and we call it LFG in our job, leave feeling good. You have those people that you work with that every time you leave, you're like, oh, like, just get it off me, right? And then you have these other ones where it's like, man, I had 15 minutes with you, we've been here for 45 minutes, and now you know about my kids and my family, and thanks, this is awesome, leaving feeling good.
Yeah, I actually agree 100%. I think it's something I've thought a lot about in my career. I have an executive assistant who works almost as much as I do. She's always with me, she's always there, she's always on call, she's always working, and not to belittle her role at all, but when I look at the time, it's like she's putting in the hours. Or I look at someone who is really smart. There's a lot of really, really intelligent people that work at our company who have not progressed very far. Or they've gotten a job and they just kind of sit in their role. And so I think being intelligent enough gets you a job. But if the question is how do you progress and how do you move up, I absolutely think it's understanding the political environment in your company and knowing how you can go add value. Being able to read a situation and say, right now my CEO cares about this. And I'm either going to help him understand why he should be focusing on this, or I'm going to go address that problem for him. And so early on in my career, and still today, I try every week to think of something my boss needs done that I can go get done for him. I can go create value for him. I can go make his life easier. And I think people who think that way and try to identify, okay, in the company, what is the problem? Exactly like Tessa said, there's a problem, no one even knows it's a problem yet. I'm going to go fix that problem so when it comes up, Tessa's the one to solve that problem. And the people that I've seen that have progressed, or my experience has been identifying problems, fixing problems, understanding political landscapes inside your company and knowing what to do, and doing it has probably propelled more people from my perspective.
Yeah, and from a sales org in Vivint Solar, one of the things that, so Paul and I both started companies, and started and ran companies that we started. Taylor started a company with Paul when they were actually in college, an energy company. So I think just having some experience there really helped. But the thing that we've done that I've seen people move up that's been very successful. So we have 62 what I would call branches inside of Vivint Solar. We have warehouses. We have, you got a few million dollars of inventory. Running millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in some branches of revenue and costs through these. And we have really tried, and I think done a very good job, to empower that local leadership group to run it as if it's their own business. And when we do it that way, we're able to attract, better talent, people who are entrepreneurial, people who are go-getters, people who want to, who don't want to be limited by income. They don't want somebody to tell them, hey, you're worth $100,000 or $200,000. We have, like in their regions in Southern California, we have a lot of these managers in the branch this year that will make $500,000. We have a handful that are going to make over $1 million running their branch this year, but it's because they're creating the value for the company. And then Paul, my job is really to enable them, to make things, to knock down barriers, to make sure that the company is structured and that they have the competitive tools and the competitive products to really run their branches in a really successful way. And I think what that's done is, one, we've attracted better talent than other companies because rather than saying, hey, here's how much you make, we're like, hey, you literally run this area, you run this branch, and you're going to be, you make whatever the branch makes. And we've been very, very successful, I think, adding an additional layer of, I would say, autonomy and freedom for our people to essentially run their branches like you would run, you would run a business, except for, Vivint Solar is essentially investing the dollars and taking the risk. And so I think we've gotten some really, really quality people, and we've been able to retain them, and because of that, we saw some explosive growth and a lot of success. Where most businesses have looked at it like, here's your box, here's your salary, here's your job, and you turn over employees a lot faster that way, and you, I don't think, end up with the best people. And so I think that came a lot from Paul and my background. That's how we like to work, and we sometimes break. I would say we break glass. We do things differently. Oftentimes
I'm in HR. I can
drive HR, finance crazy a little bit, but But I think to win in business, you got to look at things differently. You got to be willing to take some risk and to be aggressive and to do some things to make a difference, right? Make a difference, drive some revenue, and to do that, especially in a public company that's big, that's audited and monitored. It's a bit of a tug of war, but I think we have the structure now set up. Where our people are happy, they're making a lot of money, and they're very, very empowered. And I think most of you would probably feel that way, right? Working in a place where you feel like you have a lot of autonomy to make decisions, to run it, to grow, and to be successful, it sounds like it's a lot more fun than going somewhere and saying, here's your salary, here's your job, shut up and do this, and to me that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. And I think to a lot of our people it doesn't either. And so, one, I think we're a great place to work, but two, I think if you can get into a position where you have that autonomy, you have that decision making, and you have that ability to make a difference, where your voice matters, your decisions matter, and you're allowed to make mistakes. Trust me, our branch managers, they screw up sometimes, and they sometimes cost the business a lot of money. But you got to be willing to have a little bit of that in order for them to have the autonomy and freedom to really be successful.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I don't know if we need to ask more questions, but in that line of thinking, the original question was, how do you choose a company and a job or whatever? I think hopefully your career, unless you're like studying to be like a marine biologist because you're passionate about whales or something like that, probably not a lot of you know specifically an industry that you're like really passionate about, right? And so for me, I didn't get into the energy industry because I'm passionate about electrons, right? I don't really care about that. But I had kind of 3 specific things that were important to me. And so it's interesting if you were to ask Paul his path through, to get to where he is. He started in finance at Vivint Solar, and then he went to operations. They moved him to operations because they're like, hey, he's an athlete, right? So he can go from, and I don't mean he's like physically fit, which he clearly is, but he's an athlete in that he can perform a lot of different roles, right? So he could do finance, which he demonstrated, but we also had a need in operations. It was the biggest problem in our company. Sales was booming, and our operations was lagging way behind. And so the CEO moved Paul from finance to operations, right? And you were in operations for 2 years, 2.5 years. So he ran operations for the company, right? And then the problem wasn't operations anymore. It was more sales and different routes to market. And so then he was moved into senior VP of sales and then into the chief revenue officer position. And so you don't need to pick. Try to choose a company where there is that dynamic flexibility because there's growth happening, right? You don't want to go work for a paper company right now, right? Because you're going to end up in like the office scenario. And it's funny, you guys are laughing, but last week I had dinner with a guy who works, I actually ran into him in the airport last night, but in La Jolla, I live in San Diego, and we had dinner in La Jolla a couple weeks ago. And this guy works for a packaging company, a young guy, really sharp, and he works for a packaging company. And I was like, he told me that, and I was like, that's awesome. Like, what's the growth like in a packaging company right now? He's like, oh, well, there's not a lot of growth. And I'm like, so do you get out a lot? He's like, no, I just kind of sit in my cubicle. And I'm like, so is it like Dunder Mifflin? Because I'm imagining Dunder Mifflin right now, right? And he's like, honestly, it's exactly like Dunder Mifflin. And he's super sharp. He got a degree in marketing from BYU, took a job, from someone that he knew, got connected with. But the company that he chose to work for is not dynamic. So you can guess how stoked he is about his career right now, right? And I run into this all the time. Most of the people that work for us are not guys who did summer sales their whole career or something like that. A lot of them have law degrees, accounting degrees, and they went and got those degrees. How many guys do we have that have a master's in accounting from BYU in Southern California? Probably 15 guys.
Yeah, in the last 3 months it's probably 200%.
Yeah, because they get into an accounting position, and guess what? They hate it, right? They hate doing accounting. And so you want to get into a position that's dynamic. For me, I was at corporate. Paul and I started out together, right? I got into a role where I got stuck. I got stuck in a role, right? I had a boss, which was really weird. I hadn't had a boss forever. I all of a sudden had a boss. He was the worst, right? I hated working for him, which you guys may have felt that way before. And I didn't feel like, and I wasn't adding a lot of value to the company. My voice, like Chance was saying, didn't really matter, okay? And so these guys came to me and said, hey, you should go run a market. And I was like, you mean like knock doors? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, there's no way I will ever go and do that, right? That's such a step back for me in my career. But the cool part was, in Southern California, which is a phenomenal solar market, we were underperforming significantly. So guess what? That was an opportunity for me to go in and show that I'm valuable, right? And create value. We've been able to grow that area now to, we do 25% of the company's production from one area, from one region, right? And we have 8 regions in the company. So we've grown it now to where if I decided to leave, these guys would pay me some money to stay, right? Because I've been able to add value, whereas 3 years ago before, if I decided to leave, they'd be like, well, you're a good friend, but you don't really add a lot of value here, so, we'll write you a letter of recommendation, but see you later.
I think on that, the piece that I would take away is don't be afraid to try new stuff. So Taylor was in a role, he had a phenomenal job. He's making $250,000 a year by most accounts in Utah. That's a dream job for most people. And he was in it, and he was like, dude, I can give more. I feel like I can do more. Like, I make fine money, and life's good, but he's like, I want to go seize the day more. Like, I want to accomplish more in my life. And I was out traveling actually with Chance. We were in Southern California, and I was like, dude, Taylor should go run a market. And if you can get together with the right people and go execute on something, and you're not afraid to take risks, it can pay off really big. So you've got been there 2.5 years. She's making $125,000 a month probably right now. And you look at that, and it's like, hey, you now have, 500 employees down there on the sell side. You probably have 600 on the operations side. You're managing, $300 million a year type business. That happened because he was able to do something that was really extreme. And for most people, Taylor's career previous to this was We started a company, we had a lot of success with it, luckily, like really luckily, we were actually not good at all. And we were
That's actually true, he's not being modest, we really weren't.
And so the idea of doing a job where you're like, hey, I'm going to make a huge career pivot, and that'd be the takeaway. Don't be afraid to make a really strong and significant career pivot. If you're looking at something like, hey, like I'm not happy here, I'm going to make a hard shift. Like don't be afraid to make those hard shifts and go bet on yourself, because I think every one of you is a lot more talented than you think, and you have more capabilities than you realize. And when you're enabled and put on a platform that you can go and execute on those things, you're going to shock yourself. Like, wow, I can create enough value where people are going to pay me over $1 million a year to do this job. That's like crazy. But every one of you guys has that capability. You wouldn't be at this school in these programs if you didn't have that ability. So don't sell yourself short and settle for something that's just okay.
Yeah, and I would say Ty had that same experience. I mean, he had what most people in the world would consider maybe one of the best jobs ever. We had just started solar, and he had people looking at it. And we were so young, we didn't have any big positions yet. I mean, the company was tiny. And he had a big position at Vivint Inc., his sister company. And one day he came in, he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm in. What was it you actually told me? I can't remember. There was a quote.
You don't remember.
It was, oh, no, I do. My wife watches American Idol. Okay, I watch American Idol. And it was the year Simon Cowell left, and in his last interview he said sometimes you just have to know when to leave the party.
Yeah. It was like,
Do you remember that,
yeah.
Vanessa? You look like you remember.
I do not. I'm The Voice. I watch The Voice.
Oh,
so I may have
this
missed
was
that.
pre-Voice.
What would they say on The Voice?
What did they say on The
What
Voice?
would they say?
What would they say?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking all the questions.
What do you say? Put me on the hot seat. What questions?
Jeez, I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah, and so for me, I just got stuck in a role where, I mean, we did 52,000 accounts the year I left. There were 750 people that worked for us. It was awesome. But I felt like, Tim, I was just a little stuck. So the thing that I would add to the EQ comment is just put a dent in whatever you're doing. Just put a massive dent in it. The world pays really well people that can make a dent in things. So everybody on this panel came to the business and said, I'm going to put a massive dent in that. And then it just grows from there. It just leads to more opportunity.
Okay, we've got time. We've got 4 minutes left, so time for half a question, if there is such a thing. I'm going to go back to what the original topic is, and ask you guys to kind of close with your thoughts. The topic is lessons from the C-suite, how to accelerate your career. If you were writing a note to your younger self, with all the things that you've learned, what is probably the best advice that you would give your younger self?
Yeah, the number one thing, I learned this from my brother-in-law right when I got home from my mission. He told me, he said, hey, as you're choosing what to do for a career, the number one thing is you need to always do a job that challenges you. So always be doing something that challenges you, that you can learn and grow from. Because when you're being challenged, when you're outside your comfort zone, that's where growth happens, right? There is no growth in your comfort zone, and there's no comfort in your growth zone, right? It's literally just like that. So if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel challenged, that probably means you're in a really good role for yourself.
I think the biggest thing I would say is, I'm looking at all of you right now, and if we were to be honest and say, how many of you truly believe that you could make, that you could or you deserve to, let's say, make $1 million a year, be running a company, and how would you get there? And do you believe that you should be doing that? I bet there's not a lot, there's not as much belief as you probably, as you think. People are genuinely, and I am too, we're insecure, we're not confident enough, and I would just say, you gotta believe in yourself. When you look in the mirror, like really believe. You've got the smarts to do it. I promise you, all of you in here are smart enough to do it. Keep studying hard, get good grades, graduate. You've got the smarts to do it. But what you probably don't have enough of is self-confidence. That's what you need more of. You need to believe in yourself more and be willing to put yourself out there, take some more risk. And again, we have 1,000 people that work at our corporate office in Lehigh, and there's only a handful of people that I can think of in that building that I'm like, they really push themselves, they really believe in themselves, they take risks, they're willing to challenge and do something different, most people in that building literally come to work and do what they, in a very narrow zone, what they're told to do. But, believe in yourself, be confident, be an athlete, make a difference. Like Ty said, make a dent. Because when you make a dent, what happens is your confidence grows. And I'm telling you, that's the biggest thing you have to grow your career is confidence in yourself. Because other people might not believe in you. Maybe, my first business, my parents, were kind of like, what are you doing? And my friends were like kind of laughing at it a little bit. But it was like, you have to, when nobody else believes in you, you've got to believe in yourself. And I know that sounds really cliche, but I think that's the biggest thing that's going to hold all of you back. You're plenty smart enough, you're willing to work hard enough, but you just don't have enough confidence right now to move up. And so I think it's the two things. It's being good with people and getting that confidence. And as you have successes, when you go into a career, find out what the person's doing and say, I'm going to double that best person. Because as I do that, I'm going to get more confidence. And as I get more confidence, that's the number one thing you need. And I promise you, you will move up in any company, in any situation you are in, if you truly believe in yourself and you have that self-confidence. Because that's the thing that I would say most people are lacking.
That's awesome. I actually 100% agree with that. Not actually, like I usually don't, but that was great. One of the things that I would say is find a way. Every one of you is a very unique product. And most people, maybe it comes from confidence, but they don't apply their unique talent to their business. I am in a position very different than what I had planned to do, but most of the things I've learned about branding, marketing, advertising has come through direct sales. So I have a knack for design and branding and things like that, and I have applied that to door and to direct, and it's distinguished my personal brand, right? So now if you come out to the West Coast, they're not a bunch of sales offices, they're individual teams. They look like sports teams. And they have their own image, and they have their own brand, and they have their own things that they buy into. And maybe that's not your thing, right? Maybe your thing is you have an ability to articulate a story through data. Whatever your unique talent is, find a way to apply that to the business. We joked in the back room that everyone's trying to find a job that they're passionate about. That's such like a millennial thing. It's like, oh, I'm not passionate about this, so I can't do something I'm not passionate about. I think you'll do a lot better applying passion to the opportunity than trying to find an opportunity that you're inherently passionate about. I like music and motorcycles. The world doesn't pay me very well to be in the music and motorcycle business. I don't even know what I do, right? But I also like development. I like growth. I like networking. I like friends. I like storytelling. And so I've found a way to infuse that passion into my business. And if it doesn't help, well, it does help the business. The business needs passionate people, but it at least lights my fire every day. I could never do something like Chance was saying where I was in a box, right? They say, here's your territory, and I ask myself, okay, what am I uniquely good at, and how can I apply that to what I do?
Okay, Paul, we've got a hard stop with students, so you got about one sentence.
Thank you, guys.
That's it?
You want me to do one? Or?
No, do one. Yeah, give me a sentence.
How jazzed they were when I said I'm done. Okay, really quickly, I think I had the opposite problem in my career than kind of what Chance described. I wasn't crazy smart, but I was very confident. And I just read Phil Knight's book. He's the founder of Nike. And one of the quotes in there says, you're going to be remembered for the rules you break. And I think a lot of times if you just have the swagger, if you have the confidence, if you're willing to go push and get stuff done, you're going to be remembered for those things. And those are the things that create benchmarks that enable you to propel your career. So that'd be number one. Number two would be, there's times when you're going to be like rocking and rolling and making dents and making things happen. And then there's going to be periods of time. It's not like all of us are just like killing it all the time. You have to be willing to hunker down, grind through really hard, long periods of low results to get to end games. So don't be afraid to work hard, put in the time, put in the grind to get long-term big results. Thank you, guys.
Great. Great advice.
So we have a time for 2 questions from the audience, and if you are asking a question, just please feel free to stand up and introduce yourself with your name and your major. Okay, do you want to hold it? Yeah. Sure.
it on? Yeah. Okay, I'm Haley Walker. I'm a finance and economics major. My question is, you talked a lot about having us find the right company, making sure it's a good fit. But what do you guys do in your hiring process to make sure that that person is going to be a good fit for your company?
I was handed the mic. That's that confidence thing. I have no idea what I'm going to say right now. So we just had this guy named Hamish Brewer. If you guys haven't heard of Hamish Brewer, write it in your phone and look this guy up. He's incredible. But he's currently a middle school principal on the East Coast, and he's using like really unconventional means to shake up the education system, and he's having incredible results. And so my question comes from a conversation with him that we just had. And when he interviews teachers, because he's got this buzz and everybody wants to work for this guy right now. Everyone wants to work for the relentless principal. And the first thing that he asks people is, tell me about a team that you've been on. I need to know how you're going to play with everybody else. So tell me about a team that you've been on, and tell me about something really hard that you got through. I think those things will tell us more. I mean, I can think back of when I've asked those questions, and I was like, hey, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? And this one kid's like, well, I made the soccer team when I was like 14. And I was like, that's really good, man. Like, there's got to be something harder than that you've done. Do you battle something internally? Are you emotional? What is it? There's got to be, everybody's going through hard stuff, right?
Right.
If they can't find that grit, right?
I look for somebody who's competitive, who's been successful in the past. And I don't even care what they've been successful at. If they're a competitive person who's been successful at other things, then I almost nail it every time that I got it right. If they're so those are the two things I look for: how successful they've been at whatever else they've done in life, and how competitive are they? Do they want to win? Do they want to be the best? Is it like this burning fire inside of them? Because if I have those people around me, then work becomes a blast. If I'm like having to motivate people every day and figure it out, it is painful. I don't like it.
Good resumes.
Competitive person on the planet. P.S.
Yes, he is.
Try to play a pickup game of football with chance and not get completely mowed down. Like it's.
Yeah, I would add to that. When you're approaching, what I look for is someone that can tell their story really well, right? Like, you need to be very clear on what it is you want and also what you've been doing to prepare yourself for that. So get really good at telling your story.
I actually think that's an awesome question. Having worked in several groups, I've hired people on Wall Street to raise money for us. I've hired people in facilities running, our building, or operations, or sales guys, and a lot of different things. And it's interesting, people spend a lot of time on their resume. I think it's important you have a good resume, but I usually spend less than 2 minutes looking at a resume before an interview, and I've hired a lot of people. And the reason for that is I like to look to see, do they check the boxes that I need checked for that particular role? And then I don't like to go any further. Unless it's a role where actually I'm trying to look at, do they know how to spell, do they know how to punctuate, and it's actually, that matters. But most of the time it's check the boxes, and then I'm in the interview talking to the person, looking at the person, and it's more, okay, I've got 30 candidates that can all check the box. So now what I'm focused on with this person is, how will you do internally? Are you a person that you're going to work well with the 6 other people that are on the team? Are you someone that can shake things up? Can you move things forward? And so a lot of my focus on interview is around cultural fit, because so many people today check the box. And when you're trying to get a competitive job, Vivint Solar, for example, has 4,000 people. We have over $3 billion of locked-in cash flow if we shut the business down today. So a lot of people want to work there. And so the more competitive the job, the more I think people are looking at, I've got people that check the boxes. Your interview, I think, is 3 times more important than your resume.
We have time for one more question, or we'll take 2 more over here and there.
So I'm Dalton Dobson. I'm an MBA student right now. So this kind of question's for Paul, but I'd love to hear all you guys' answers as well. So you said when you were going to raise money, you'd never done that before. So what role did mentors play in that? Or what, if at all, kind of through that process of guiding you and helping you to raise that money? And then kind of what role of mentors played in your guys' life and moving forward in your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we started the business, the way solar works is you install solar, and there's a federal tax credit. And so when you put a system up there, 30% of whatever you spend on it, you get back in a tax credit. So for every system we were installing, we were getting about $10,000 of tax credit benefit. And so the first idea is, we're like, hey, let's sell this off. Well, you can't sell tax credits. Whoever earns them is the only person that can use them. Similar to your personal taxes. You get tax write-offs for stuff you do, And if you have extra, you just carry it to the next year. So we were creating hundreds of millions of dollars of tax credits. And so no one knew what to do with them. And so I started, just trying to research and figure out this new model, and it's called tax equity now. And so literally it was a lot of really late nights just trying to strategize on, okay, how do we form entities that we can bring partners in that, Googles or Apples or big banks that have big tax appetite, have them partner with us, own the assets for a long enough period of time so they can monetize the tax benefits. So in that structure, there was a lot of things that was just working through trying to figure out, but we hired the best tax accountants we could and the best lawyers that we could. So getting the right smart people to do the work on pieces that you don't know would be number one. As far as mentors, I think when you get the opportunity of a lifetime, you want to pull out all the stops and you want to leave nothing on the table. So for me, I got in this new role. It was this new company. I'm like, I think this thing has legs. I'm not going to waste this opportunity at all. I will leverage and pull out any stop that I can and network with anybody that I can. And so I was calling anybody that my dad knew that was rich. I was talking to anybody that would talk to me that was smart. And I was just trying to learn and understand, okay, how's Wall Street work? How do I get in the door of this bank? Because raising $2 million of seed money is really different than raising $150 million from a big bank. And so mentors and people played a huge role in that, definitely.
Yeah, and I would say, but the reason, why did Paul get that opportunity to do it? That's the piece that most people never get, right? So I guess my question, why did Paul get that? What do you think? He had the opportunity to go raise that money. He didn't know what he was doing. That's very rare. Why did he get that?
A lot of whispering. There's a lot of whispering.
Yeah.
People.
He's a hustler.
There you go.
Experience that he can make it happen.
That's right. He had started a company. He was a hustler, and he exuded confidence, and he talked about this idea that he didn't even really know or understand quite yet, but he was really passionate about it. He brought it to the front, and then he knew, hey, I maybe only have 2 weeks before I get fired from this project, but I got 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, he's like, I got another month, and after another month, he's like, now I got another 6 months. And so when he had that 2-week opportunity, and we see that a lot in the company, people come, they get it, they're a couple weeks into it, and they're like, nah, it's not the right person. So when you get that shot, I don't know where it's going to be, but you got to exude confidence, and when you get it, you go nuts. You don't sleep, you research, you go over the top to kind of seize that moment, because all of you are going to have it in your career, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, you're running a company. Those moments will come up, and how you react in those times is either going to give you the next one, or it's going to kind of get you stuck in your career.
Yeah, and I was there when this happened for Paul, and I was opening warehouses and flying and trying to find and Paul was literally in his office. It was not glamorous, right? Now looking back, it's very glamorous. Raising $1.2 billion, that's glamorous, right? Anyone in here would probably be like, yeah, I'd be stoked to have that on my resume. But when it started, we had to tranche individual accounts on spreadsheets. So Paul he was in the office from 7 a.m. till midnight every day, right? And I'm like, dude, anyone could do what you're doing right now. You're just in there copying and pasting and writing this model on your board. I mean, but it was, what Chance is saying is real. He had that opportunity. He took it. I haven't seen anyone work that hard before. It was amazing. What he did, though, is advice my dad gave me, is he made himself indispensable. So whatever job you're going into, make yourself indispensable.
And he got really smart people around it. He knew he had no shot in heck if he didn't have the best attorneys,
Basically
and the best
idiot.
accountants. He knew that was true, and so he was like, I'm going to do whatever because that's my only shot. I remember, this is just super quick, but we were in New York. He's just doing this. He's getting going. He's still figuring it out. I know that. Nobody else does. And we had this intern that we had from BYU. He has to go with another bank. He's got this other bank that's closing. He looks at the intern, he's like, you got to get this done, Ben. Make it happen. I'm giving you the phone. Hands him the cell phone, gets on with his other bank. This intern's just going. I'm like, Paul said you could do it. You can close this, man. And he literally didn't know what he was doing either. But he just like, he was like putting pressure on that intern, and he was closing other deals. And that intern stepped up, and now he's in capital markets. He's one of our best people. But and you know, he literally closed a huge deal over the phone in New York, and literally had just started like a month before as an intern out of BYU.
So, just a quick question. I'm Mark Woodland. I'm one of the MBA students. You guys have had such explosive growth, going from a relatively small company to this ginormous company. What's the biggest challenge that you faced in dealing with that growth and managing that growth to be a successful organization today?
So I'll be quick because I know everybody has stuff. Different parts of the business grew at different paces. So for a while, sales was growing like crazy, and we let it run. And for a year and a half, we were growing like weeds. And then we started seeing like, hey, our operations is a joke. We had roof leaks, and we just didn't have all the systems and processes dialed in. Then we focused on that, and then we're like, hey, our IT automation is way behind. And then it was our sales tools. And so the hardest thing with explosive growth is juggling which piece is behind and being smart enough to identify what's behind and knowing the mistakes and trying to forecast what's going to happen. But that was the hardest thing for us. Is some things are like, man, this is the greatest department ever. And then things like, this is literally the worst thing I've ever seen.
Well, and I think a lot of that, Paul, too, was the leadership, right? Like people, you have to get to, sometimes it's hard when you're growing so fast as a company. We had one guy that was over operations he was one of the initial 4. So once it outgrew his skill set, we didn't replace him. We replaced him a year and a half too late. And so you have to be ready to say, hey, let's find the right role for you, because there is the right role for you, but that's not the right role for you right now. The business needs something else. You have to make those hard decisions.
And one other thing we really appreciate is people who come and tell us what the problems are. We have a lot of problem hiders in the company. They don't want to look bad. They want to hide it or whatever. And by the time we find out about it, we're like, oh, you know what is going on? We want people, we know there's problems. We know things are going to be breaking. We know different things are going to go. So we really appreciate transparency. When somebody comes to us and says, here's the problem, here's how it's outlined, here's what I think we should do about it, we're like, thank you. You know, I didn't have to uncover it, get mad at the people who did it, and then try to figure out how we're going to fix it. Like you know, we know that that's going to happen. So that's another thing I think as you go into a company, I would say 3/4 people, natural tendency is if there's problem in their organization or whatever, they try to hide it. And then you got about, you know, the rest that will be really transparent and open and help you resolve them. So be one of those people when you go into an organization would be another little tip.
Taylor and I had the chance to see Seth Godin. If you guys ever read anything by Seth Godin, the other night in Irvine, and I was reading this piece that he was talking about, and to go along with Chance's thing, he talked about the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. In sales, we have a lot of thermometers, right? If you want to know what the problem is, sales will tell you what the problem is, and it's not them, right? It's everybody else, right? But that's a thermometer. The thermometer's job is to tell you the temperature. Hey, there's a problem, right? What we need is thermostats, people that say it's 110 degrees outside, so I'm going to cool the inside of the car so you don't cook, right? So the people that we always make a joke in sales that the one that complains gets the assignment. So if they come in and they're like, hey, our customer welcome email is atrocious. I'm really glad you brought that up. Could you work with marketing and fix it? And they're like, yeah. And a lot of times that's the autonomy they want anyways, right? Nobody wants to be the whiny guy. But try to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Hey, I noticed this problem. Here are 3. I'm thinking of Sterling. We have this guy in Bakersfield that runs our market there, and he always does this, and we so appreciate it. He says, hey, I noticed this problem. Here are 3 things that I think could work. And he goes from worst, better, best, right? And then we usually just pick the thing that he thought of, because back to Paul's point, he made his bosses look really good, solved the problem for us, and we pushed it through.
I know we're ending. I just want to let you guys know, shameless plug right now. We're starting the entrepreneurial competition, but we will be available between 12:30 and 1 when the teams are out working. And if you're in this next room, if you want to learn more about Vivint Solar, please come see us. We'll come back on campus in another week, and we'll get everybody together that's interested, or we'll have one-on-ones with you. But I don't want to lose you if you're interested in learning more about what Vivint Solar has to offer.
Great.
I'll make an offer to everyone in this room.
Great. Let's give a warm, a thank you to Vivint Solar.